We spent every Thursday night in their iconic booths, but time waits for no one. The years have been both kind and cruel to the faces that once brought us endless joy. From tragic health battles to stunning physical transformations, the Seinfeld cast looks nothing like you remember. Prepare for an emotional journey through the decades as we reveal the shocking reality of where your favorite New Yorkers are today. Jerry Seinfeld as himself, the architect of a gilded vacuum. Born April 29, 1954. Jerry was 35 years old when he co-created a show about nothing in 1989. While the world saw a carefree observer of life's trivialities, the real weight of Jerry's journey was the absolute coldness of the observer. To be the master of nothing, he had to detach himself from something, trading emotional vulnerability for the surgical precision of a punchline. He carried the burden of being the straight man in a hurricane of eccentrics, a role that required him to suppress his own dramatic range to ensure the clockwork of the comedy never missed a beat. The profound tragedy of Jerry's story is the isolation of the perfectionist. In 1998, he made the agonizing choice to kill the most successful show in history, famously turning down $110 million just to keep the legacy untarnished. This wasn't just a business move. It was a surrender to his own obsession with control. He spent the following decades living in the shadow of his own creation, navigating the Seinfeld curse that haunted his friends and the realization that he could never again bottle the same lightning. He traded a future of new creative identities for a lifetime of guarding a museum of his own making, trapped in a loop of observational humor while the world moved toward a raw, messy reality he refused to join. Today, on April 28th, 2026, Jerry Seinfeld is 71 years old, celebrating his 72nd birthday tomorrow. He remains the wealthiest comedian in history, standing as a symbol of the power of no. With a net worth of $1 billion, his legacy is a masterclass in professional boundaries. A man who proved that the only way to keep nothing perfect is to never let something get in the way. Michael Richards as Cosmo Kramer. The physical genius in his self-imposed exile. Born July 24, 1949. Michael was 40 years old when he created the most iconic entrance in television history. While the audience saw a slapstick maestro of pure joy, the real weight of Michael's journey was the exhausting solitary intensity of his perfectionism. He wasn't just sliding into a room. He was obsessively choreographing every limb and twitch, a man who took the art of being funny so seriously that it left little room for the human being behind the mask to breathe. He became the face of a public shaming so absolute that it erased decades of comedic genius, turning a beloved icon into a cautionary tale of a single devastating mistake. He traded the roar of the audience for a wilderness of the soul, spending nearly 20 years in a self-imposed exile to study the darkness that led to his collapse. He lived through the hollow reality of being an icon who could never again step into the light without the shadow of his own words following him. He traded the frantic energy of Kramer for the contemplative peace of a writer finally releasing his soul-bearing memoir, Entrances and Exits, to navigate the wreckage of his past. He proved that the hardest stage to master isn't a sitcom set, but the internal world of a man seeking his own forgiveness after the world has already walked away. In 2026, Michael Richards is 76 years old. He maintains an estimated net worth of $30 million, living as a quiet, reflective author who has finally accepted that his legacy is a complicated tapestry of brilliance and brokenness. Ruth Cohen as Ruthie, the silent sentinel of the Monk's Diner. Born in 1930, Ruth was 59 years old when she first took her place behind the cash register at Monk's Diner in 1989. While the world watched the Big Four dissect every triviality of their lives, the real weight of Ruth's journey was the silent, unwavering discipline of being an icon who was never heard. In 101 episodes, more than almost any other guest star in history, she carried the burden of being a constant in millions of living rooms, a face recognized by the world while remaining a complete enigma within the scripts she inhabited. The profound tragedy of Ruth's story was the invisible iconicism of the background artist. She stood at the center of the storm, the only character to witness the true cycle of the Seinfeld world. Yet she was granted only a handful of words across a decade. She traded the pursuit of a leading role for the quiet dignity of being the texture of the world, representing the millions of service workers who are seen but never truly known. Her victory was her sheer endurance. She outlasted the celebrities and the plot lines, becoming a cult legend through the sheer power of her presence, proving that you don't need a monologue to become an essential part of a cultural landmark. In her private life, Ruth was the antithesis of the neurosis that filled the diner. She was a professional of the highest order, respected by the cast and crew as the lucky charm of the series. She chose a path of quiet reliability, avoiding the frantic scramble for fame, and instead building a legacy through consistency and grace. She proved that the most lasting characters aren't always the ones who talk the loudest, but the ones who remain standing long after the final punchline is delivered. Ruth Cohen passed away in February 2008 at the age of 78. Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Elaine Beans, the unbreakable queen of the comic void. Born January 13, 1961. Julia was 28 years old when she was brought in to balance the Seinfeld Boys Club in 1989. While fans saw a whirlwind of wit and big hair energy, the real weight of Julia's journey was the exhausting pressure of being the only woman in the room. She carried the silent burden of proving that a female lead could be just as selfish, neurotic, and unlikable as the men single-handedly battling a sitcom industry that demanded women be either the honey or the mother. The profound tragedy of Julia's story was the 2017 breast cancer diagnosis that struck while she was at the absolute zenith of her career. She had to face her own mortality in the unforgiving glare of the public eye, trading the scripted punchlines of Veep for the grueling reality of chemotherapy. Behind her billionaire family name lay the heavy, invisible burden of having to work 10 times harder to prove she wasn't just a product of privilege, but a titan of her own making. She navigated the Seinfeld curse and a life-threatening illness with a fierce, unsentimental grit that most of the world never saw. Her ultimate victory was the total reclamation of her life and legacy. She traded the sitcom girlfriend label for the status of the most decorated actress in Emmy history, proving that her talent was a force of nature that no curse could contain. She mastered the art of survival, showing that the only thing more powerful than a great joke is a woman who refuses to be broken by the world's expectations. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is 65 years old. She stands as a global icon of artistic indomitability, maintaining a net worth of $250 million. Her legacy is one of absolute excellence, a woman who survived the intense spotlight of the 90s and a battle for her life to become the undisputed sovereign of modern comedy. Jason Alexander as George Costanza, the brilliant artist trapped in a loser's shadow. Born September 21, 1959. Jason was 29 years old when he became the Lord of the Idiots in 1989. While the world roared at George's schemes and self-loathing, the real weight of Jason's journey was the mental tax of inhabiting a character fueled entirely by insecurity. He had to surrender his own dignity and grace to play a man who was the living embodiment of human failure. A performance so convincing it eventually blurred the lines between the actor and the archetype. The profound tragedy of Jason's story was the Seinfeld curse of typecasting. A Tony-winning song and dance man of the theater, Jason found himself locked in a professional cage built by his own genius. He was so effective as George that Hollywood forgot he was a versatile leading man, often overlooking him for roles that required the gravitas he clearly possessed. He lived through the frustration of being a master of the stage who was perpetually reduced to a short, stocky, bald caricature, facing an industry that refused to let him move on from the man who stayed in the bathroom too long. His ultimate victory was the total reclamation of his craft through the theater. He traded the pursuit of another television hit for the integrity of the stage and the director's chair, proving that his talent was far broader than the walls of Monk's Diner. By becoming a respected mentor and a titan of Broadway, he showed that the only way to escape a shadow is to return to the light of your original passion. Jason Alexander is 66 years old. He remains a revered figure in the performing arts, currently directing a highly anticipated new production and maintaining an estimated net worth of $50 million. His legacy is the triumph of the artist over the icon, a man who played a loser so well, the world nearly forgot he was actually a king of the stage. Wayne Knight as Newman, the Shakespearean villain in a postal uniform. Born August 7, 1955. Wayne was 36 years old when he introduced the sinister brilliance of Newman in 1992. While the world saw a bumbling, devious mailman, the real weight of Wayne's journey was the exhausting caricature. A classically trained actor of immense depth, he was often trapped in the narrow cage of the sinister antagonist, navigating an industry that valued his devious grin and physical frame more than the multifaceted dramatic talent he truly possessed. The profound tragedy of Wayne's story was the physical and psychological toll of his character's skin. Across 44 episodes between 1992 and 1998, he inhabited a body frequently used as a visual punchline, battling the silent health complications of his frame while carrying the show's narrative darkness. He faced the isolation of being the man the world loved to loathe, a professional burden where his brilliance was frequently overshadowed by the malice of his uniform. He lived through the peak of his fame as a man struggling to be seen past the archetype of the most hated mailman in America. His ultimate victory was the radical reclamation of his own life. He traded the villain silhouette for a new narrative of health and versatility, surviving a high-stakes transformation to reclaim his future. He proved his range by becoming a titan of voice acting and a respected stage performer, moving seamlessly from the terror of Jurassic Park to the whimsy of Toy Story 2. He mastered the art of the second act, proving that the smartest way to kill a villain is to outlive the role and find the human being underneath. Today, in 2026, Wayne Knight is 70 years old. He remains a revered veteran of the screen and stage, maintaining a net worth of $10 million. Liz Sheridan as Helen Seinfeld, the eternal protector of a golden sun. Born April 10, 1929. Liz was 61 years old when she first graced the set of Seinfeld in 1990. While the world saw the ultimate doting mother, a woman whose universe revolved around her son's happiness, the real weight of Liz's journey was the silent fading of a vibrant bohemian past. Before she became Mrs. Seinfeld, she was a glamorous dancer and cabaret star who had once shared a legendary whirlwind romance with a young James Dean. She carried the invisible burden of being an artist whose rich, fiery history was slowly eclipsed by the beige sweaters and suburban worries of her most famous role. She spent the final decades of her life synonymous with a character whose only trait was unconditional love, while her own identity as a pioneer of the New York stage became a distant footnote. She navigated the longevity of the character actor with a quiet, stoic dignity, watching as her generation of Hollywood icons vanished into history, while she remained frozen in time as the mother who couldn't understand how anyone couldn't like him. She traded the spotlight of her youth for the safety of a caricature, proving that the price of immortality is often the loss of one's own narrative. Her victory was found in her unwavering grace and the incredible stamina of her final act. She worked well into her 80s, maintaining a professional integrity that never wavered even as the industry moved on. She traded the wild passions of her youth for the enduring warmth of a cultural icon, finding a new kind of legacy in the laughter of millions. She proved that there is a quiet, monumental power in being the steady heart of a chaotic world. Liz Sheridan passed away on April 15, 2022 at the age of 93, just 5 days after her final birthday. Jerry Stiller as Frank Costanza, the volcanic soul of the suburban nightmare. Born June 8, 1927. Jerry was 66 years old when he took on the volatile mantle of Frank Costanza in 1993. To the world, he was the master of Serenity Now, a man of high decibel rage and eccentric holidays. But the real weight of Jerry's journey was the exhausting physical and emotional toll of being comedy's loudest voice in his twilight years. He was a classically trained, sensitive performer who had to summon a tectonic level of frustration for every take, a professional sacrifice that transformed his quiet nature into a legendary shouting icon of the Festivus era. The profound tragedy of Jerry's story was the quiet, devastating silence that followed the death of his wife and creative soulmate Anne Meara in 2015. After 61 years of a partnership that defined their lives and careers as Stiller and Meara, Jerry was forced to navigate his final chapter without his compass. He spent his last 5 years in a world that felt suddenly empty, his iconic bark masking the grief of a man who had lost half of his own soul. He traded the vibrant shared spotlight of the 1960s for a solitary endurance, proving that the hardest role to play is the one where the laughter continues while the partner who made it possible is gone. Jerry Stiller passed away on May 11, 2020, at the age of 92. He is remembered not just for the volume of his voice, but for the profound humanity he brought to a character defined by chaos. With an estimated net worth of $14 million at the time of his passing, his legacy is a masterclass in late-life reinvention. A man who proved that you can find your greatest roar at an age when the world expects you to whisper. Estelle Harris as Estelle Costanza, the piercing echo of maternal neurosis. Born April 22, 1928. Estelle was 64 years old when she first unleashed her unmistakable voice on Seinfeld in 1992. While the world saw a woman of perpetual agitation and operatic volume, the real weight of Estelle's journey was the physical and vocal tax of her performance. She had to weaponize her voice into a high-pitched instrument of comedic dread, a role that required her to be unbearable so that the audience could find relief in the chaos. The profound tragedy of Estelle's story was the professional cage of the screaming mother. Despite being a woman of immense warmth and elegant versatility, a veteran of the stage and a talented voice artist, she became the global face of domestic anxiety. She carried the burden of being synonymous with a character who represented everyone's most repressed childhood frustrations, spending her golden years trapped in a caricature that left little room for the refined woman underneath. She traded her quiet dignity for the loud, abrasive shadow of a woman who couldn't even eat a meal without a confrontation. Her ultimate victory was her incredible stamina and her ability to touch a younger generation. She traded the shouting matches of queens for the gentle, iconic role of Mrs. Potato Head in the Toy Story franchise, proving that her voice could be a source of love just as easily as it was a source of stress. She worked until the very end, proving that her spirit was far more resilient than the fragile, high-strung character she played for nearly a decade. Estelle Harris passed away on April 2, 2022 at the age of 93. Today, in April 2026, she is remembered as the only force of nature that could truly silence Frank Costanza. With an estimated net worth of $5 million at the time of her passing, her legacy is a masterclass in comedic timing. A woman who used a scream to earn her place in the quiet halls of television history. Heidi Swedberg as Susan Ross, the sacrifice of the misfit rhythm. Born March 3, 1966. Heidi was 26 years old when she entered the Seinfeld universe in 1992. While the world saw the long-suffering fiancé of George Costanza, the real weight of Heidi's journey was the isolating experience of being an outsider in a comedy clockwork that refused to let her in. She played the straight woman in a world of absurdity, a role that required her to be the constant, unsuspecting target of the audience's mockery, while navigating a backstage environment that felt increasingly alien. In an industry defined by ego, she was effectively voted off the island because her organic acting style didn't mesh with the frantic mechanical rhythm of the lead cast. She had to endure the public narrative that her character was killed off simply because the stars found her impossible to play against a heartbreaking label for a talented performer who was merely doing the job she was hired to do. She lived through the humiliation of becoming a television punchline, a sacrificial lamb for a show that prioritized comedic chemistry over human connection. Her ultimate victory was her total, radical abandonment of the Hollywood machine. She traded the hollow pursuit of a comeback for a life of melodic peace, reinventing herself as a world-renowned ukulele performer and educator. She chose the warmth of music and the joy of teaching over the cold, cynical glare of the sitcom spotlight, proving that her spirit was too harmonious for the biting world of Denver Carrington's urban equivalent. She mastered the art of the clean break, showing that the only way to survive being killed by a script is to write a completely different story for yourself. Heidi Swedberg is 60 years old. Living a life of creative fulfillment far from the toxic echoes of the past, she maintains an estimated net worth of $1 million. Barney Martin as Morty Seinfeld, the grudging architect of the Florida dream. Born March 3, 1923, Barney was 68 years old when he stepped into the role of Morty Seinfeld in 1991. To the world, he was the quintessential retired raincoat salesman, obsessed with the politics of Del Boca Vista. But the real weight of Barney's journey was the silent irony of his past. He was a real-life decorated NYPD detective who had spent 20 years in the grittiest trenches of New York City only to spend his final decade of fame playing a man whose greatest conflict was a stolen wallet in a doctor's office. He carried the weight of being the second choice, having replaced the original actor from the pilot and spent the rest of his career meticulously erasing any trace of his predecessor. He had to suppress the gravity of a man of the law to become a symbol of suburban neurosis, navigating the peak of his fame while secretly battling the lung cancer that would eventually claim him. He watched as his character became a beloved caricature of the stubborn father, while his own physical reality faded in the background, becoming the first of the Seinfeld parents to leave the stage forever. His ultimate victory was the dignity of the veteran craftsman. He traded the badge for the script, proving that a man who had seen the worst of humanity could still find a second life in laughter. He became a universal father figure to a generation of viewers who saw their own parents' eccentricities in his performance. He mastered the art of the slow burn, showing that comedic genius doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's just the stubborn, honest refusal to take a Velcro wallet seriously. Barney Martin passed away on March 21, 2005 at the age of 82. Today, in April 2026, he is remembered as the unwavering anchor of the Seinfeld family, a man who proved that the funniest thing in life is the simple, honest frustration of growing old. With an estimated net worth of $500,000, at the time of his passing, his legacy is not found in the executive raincoats, but in the timeless warmth he brought to a show that often prided itself on being cold.